Welcome to Deep Thought, the time travel fallacy. You know what, man? Everybody, it's funny, right? Every now and then on either on social media or just talking or just people in general, always think about, you think about the past and you think about like mistakes that you made in the past, right? You think about like, man, I would have did this different or something. And people say, well, if you could travel back in time and change this, what would you change? Or what would you say to your younger self or something like that? It's cute, but, I was thinking about that, right? Because I saw a meme about, what would you rather have? What would you rather have, like $1 million or some type of possession or to travel back in time? I remember, and somebody was on one of my Facebook pages, like, yeah, I'd rather travel back in time, change something. And I remember I think they specifically said they would get like some Amazon stock. They would buy it early. And I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, then I really thought about it, right? If you travel back in time, even though you might think of your life as insignificant, like with the knowledge you have now, it would change everything. It would change everything, right? Because I'll give you an example. Like those who remember the classic movies Back to the Future. And I remember in Back to the Future 2, there was this dude had this book of all these like results with horse racing and everything that would, if he had it, he was able to make, become very rich and powerful because he always knew the results of races. Hey, that's good for a 2-hour fantasy movie, which is what it is. But in real life, just the act of going back, no matter how significant you are, would change everything, right? Let me use a couple of examples. Let me use the Amazon example real quick, right? Okay, you go back in time, right? Say you go back in time, you ordinary, and you're like, yeah, I know this company called Amazon is going to rise up. Maybe even a company called Apple, right? And you think you're going to sit back and chill, but just by the fact of you going back in time, right? And like I said, you might think of yourself as insignificant, but it's like that butterfly thing. When they have these time travel stories of paradox, if you go back in time and you step on the first butterfly, then, they'll say that creates a world, that creates a ripple effect. You could create a world without beauty or whatever. Okay, you go back in time, you say, okay, I ain't going to do anything significant, but just you being back in time, like, say it's kind of like they did in, X-Men Days of Future Past. They just send your mind back, right? So you and your younger body, some stuff, right? And you think this is going to happen now, like maybe that first day you get back, something is going to happen. If you could cash in on it on that day, maybe you could, do well. But the second you get back, everything changes. First of all, you start doing different things. You start doing things differently. So maybe some of the relationships you got don't come into fruition, or some of the, the children you may have had, they don't become born because everything changed. Because one, your children might not be, if you have children, they might not be born because you go back in time, and instead of like going through the things that got you to the person that got you to that child, shoot, you figured out how to finally get that, that fine man, if you're a woman, or that real beautiful woman that you had spent years thinking about, you get her, right? But then because you get her, or if you're a woman because you get him, you don't meet the father of your children or the mother of your children because you stuck with that person. It takes you in a different direction. If you're dealing for the guys, if you're dealing with that particular beautiful woman, say your baby mama, she all right, but she ain't that drop dead gorgeous, right? So you go back and get with that beautiful woman that you wanted to get with, and it creates a line of events where you don't meet the woman that eventually is the mother of your children. Because you're going in a totally different direction, right? Think about it. You got whole new connections. Now, you might still think, oh, that's nothing. I'm still going to wait for Amazon to come in. But because of the moves you made, it affects the creation of Amazon. Let me tell you how. Right now, say you go back and you start creating different relationships with different people, and you start maybe even business wise going a different direction. Right? You might not, Amazon might not be created because, there's a saying that there's only 6 degrees of separation between us and anybody on the planet. Right? And when I think about it, there might be like just 4 degrees of separation between me and the president, even though he has no idea who I am. But I just thought about that just now. But I know somebody who worked, good friends, just communicated with him the other day, who worked for a very prominent politician. I ain't gonna give his name. And that prominent politician knows the president. That's 4 degrees. So you get back there, you start making different connections and stuff. Now, once again with Amazon, they got 2 examples with Amazon. Say because of the new connections you make, somehow it touches Jeff Bezos in a different way. It might, you might, because you got with a different woman, it might affect the relationships that he gets into, even though you don't realize it. Then all of a sudden, instead of creating Amazon, dude might say, and I forgot what he was doing. I read about what he was doing. He might decide to stay where he's at or get into something totally different. He might, because of the different relationships, the different connections that could touch him, he might decide to get into just real estate or something. So you create a new reality where instead of being the richest man in the world, he's just a regular real estate guy. Maybe just have he might have just a few properties or something. He might not, the sequence might not be there, right? That's one way. Here's another way, right? Say you go back and you say, hey, you know what, this internet thing gonna be big and selling stuff online, so I'm gonna start selling it. It might be a case where, you might get rich, but you might not. Now, here's an interesting scenario. Say, you know what, instead of Bezos creating Amazon, you create Amazon, right? You create it. Because you create it, of course he doesn't, but here's the thing. Whatever sequence, you might not have had the connections to make it work the way he did. He had there's a lot of, it wasn't built totally from scratch. People talk about Amazon was built a certain way, but it wasn't built totally from scratch. He, at one point he had a significant investment in it by some very rich people. So it wasn't built totally, we always say out of the garage or something, but nah, he had like a 6-figure investment I read somewhere, in the company, significant, right? So, but you might not get it. So you might try to create something similar, but for whatever reason, it doesn't work. And then that affects others. And then, because Amazon isn't there or something similar, because you can't assume somebody else would create it or even think about it. A lot of people who've made money through Amazon, which millions of people have made money being like selling products through Amazon. Because Amazon is really just a store. They starting to now create their own products, with movies and stuff. But even then, they just hosting it. Somebody else has to create it. If that platform isn't there, that affects other people, right? And that's one example. Another example, right? Because I always think about, I'm big on a bookstore, and I still, I'll probably have a bookstore in like in my later years when I don't feel like just philosophizing with all of y'all. Someplace I can chill and just dispense knowledge, let people come to me, all right? Now, I thought about that. I said, yeah, I'd go back. If I went back to like the 80s or something, start a bookstore. But then I thought about all the bookstores that I've done business with and all the people I've met, all the connections I've made. Just because I might do things differently, it might affect something. It might affect something else, right? It might affect something else. You just never know. I might get into business and be very dominant, but then other bookstores might not come in. Or I could get in, be dominant, and then fail, but then affect something else. Things would change. Also, too, say I'm in a dominant position. Now, it could be a good thing in a way. It could be a good thing because as a bookstore owner, there might be certain books I don't promote. Like, for example, some of the books that were going in on black men back in the day, right? I might say, well, you know what? I ain't going to promote that. And it might be like, wow, yeah, But it might open up something else. That's the thing. It's like if you go back, it's an automatic change. And let's say even if it really, like I said at the beginning, you could go back and just go back. And even with your knowledge, still don't do stuff because maybe it don't necessarily mean you have the best knowledge. Because if you change something, then some other issue come up. Like with the beautiful woman thing. Yeah, you might go back, get that fine woman or something. But then she really messed your life up even worse. So you get back to the present, by the time over the years, you get to the present time, instead of being somebody who had a little bit going on, you at least had a home, car, decent paying job or business, whatever. Because you go back and you get with that woman, that beautiful woman that you famed about for years. Shit, she does something to you that by the time you get back to the present time, grow into it, you on the street homeless. So it's a lot that can happen. It's a lot. And it's something, like I say, it's something to think about. Something to think about. You know how I do. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.